I know this is going to be a rehashing of something I said before in one of my videos, especially on this day that needs to be sacrosanct. One of my favorite quotes from Martin Luther King Jr. himself is obviously one of the most important quotes that we need to start thinking about right now, and one I've been thinking about the last 6 years. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. For the last 6 years, I've thought about that quote from Martin Luther King. And then for the last 6 years, I understand what that means. And now, we're seeing exactly what that means. When it comes to comfort and convenience, and I swear I am not trying to make this into a political video, but considering what we're seeing out of the Republican Party and out of President Joe Biden now, this quote from Martin Luther King himself is more strong now than it was when he first said it. When it comes to comfort and convenience, the Republican Party wants it all their way, or they throw a fit, or they get angry. And today of all days, yes, they'll post a couple of quotes from Martin Luther King. They'll tweet a photo of him saying that he was one of the greatest Americans out there, that he this, that, and the other, thus and so. And then they'll turn, I mean, this is a post from Nick Adams. Now you know I've been on this guy for almost a year now, but I needed to talk about this post. Him posting a photo of Martin Luther King and saying today that we honor a great Republican and civil rights icon. What Martin Luther King did wasn't about politics or policy. It was about right and wrong. When you see people, when you see people out there being harassed, killed, denied basic civil rights because of the color of their skin, that is what he fought against. That is what he gave his life struggling for, equality. But when you have someone like Nick Adams posting, today we honor a great Republican, if he had just left out that word, Republican, and said, today we honor a great civil rights icon, that would have been over. That would have been just fine. Because we all know, but the fact is, he shouldn't have posted anything, and none of these Republicans should be posting anything about Martin Luther King, whether it's sharing a link from another from a news source, whether it's Fox News trying to ingratiate themselves on him, trying to say we're not racist. We posted about Martin Luther King. When you have stone cold racists like Tucker Carlson, who is directly responsible for the massacre in Buffalo, New York last year, whose replacement theory rhetoric led to the deaths of African Americans in the supermarket, whose shooter actually quoted replacement theory. And now they have the nerve to talk about Martin Luther King, while under the same breath trying to say that he's a great civil rights icon, that he's a great man, a great American. But 20 minutes later, we'll go back to the same racist, destructive, divisive rhetoric that led to the murder of innocent people because of the color of their skin. Now we come to the point that we have when it comes to challenge and controversy from the other side. Of course, I'm talking about President Joe Biden. This past weekend, meaning January 15th, 2023, Martin Luther King's actual birthday, he was the first sitting president ever to deliver a sermon in the same church, that being Ebenezer Baptist Church, where Martin Luther King gave his first sermon in 1947. One of the things he said that touched me was that and I quote, and this is President Biden I'm talking about. He followed the path of Moses, a path of inspiration, and always telling the people not to be afraid. Like John the Baptist, he prepared us for the greater hope ahead. Martin Luther King Jr. was a nonviolent warrior for justice. To this very day, I have not heard a single Republican out there speak those kinds of words. Not even the last several years, the last 20 years, I have never heard the Republicans speak like this. Now, challenge and controversy, obviously with the documents hanging over Joe Biden's head. However, he proves Martin Luther King correct about how a measure of a man is judged by how he reacts in challenge and controversy, whether they're in comfort and convenience. Joe Biden is not a perfect president or politician by any stretch of the imagination. But he keeps trying because he knows what the challenges are. He understands what the challenges are. Republicans don't want to deal with the challenges. They never did. Almost in the same way that Lyndon Baines Johnson tried to deal with the voting rights issue by trying to almost outright ignore it until Bloody Sunday at Selma, where we saw African Americans, people of all races, being beaten, perhaps almost killed, even killed. One of them being John Lewis, heaven rest his soul. Lyndon Johnson wanted to deal with this situation, the voting rights issue, as a matter of a challenge and controversy that he was not ready at the time to fight for, to make a decision on. Martin Luther King saw the challenge and the controversy of demanding that African Americans get the right to vote. He stood up to the challenge, knowing that he could be killed, knowing that he could have been arrested, which he was, but he still accepted the challenge and the controversy. How many of us in this country, black, white, Latino, Asian, Muslim, would stand up to that kind of challenge, knowing that there could be death and destruction and imprisonment waiting for us? Not a whole lot, unfortunately. And that is why we celebrate Martin Luther King Day, because he had the guts, he had the courage, he had the spirituality. He was one of I believe this wholeheartedly, he was one of God's chosen to step up to the challenge and the controversies where I won't say lesser men, I won't say cowards, but people who don't have that kind of courage. And we're seeing them now, here and now. I've seen a lot in the last 6 years, a lot of them. And unfortunately, a lot of them have to have that little R next to their name. We're seeing how they are dealing with controversy and challenge. And we're seeing how Joe Biden and the Democrats are dealing with controversy and challenge. One is taking the path of least resistance, while the other is facing it head on. If I must choose between comfort and challenge, I choose challenge every day. That's just my personal opinion. Now, I'm not a fool. I'm not the type to run into a situation without knowing what the situation is. However, when you have someone like Martin Luther King who actually saw the challenges, he stood forward, he marched, he fought nonviolently, and ultimately he gave his life for for equality in this country, the same struggles that we are fighting even now today. And don't tell you, some people would say that those struggles are over. We need to keep fighting because one day we may wake up and equality will be gone. And everything Martin Luther King stood for, fought for, marched for, and ultimately died for will be destroyed. And that's what a lot of people in this country want. But now is our time to step up. So I'm calling on all Americans, regardless of color, race, creed, religion, keep the dream alive. Not even Martin Luther King himself, but for yourselves, for your children, and posterity to come. When someone asks you, when you saw something wrong, when you saw a person being harassed because of the color of their skin, what are you going to do when someone asks you, what did you do? Will you say, I just stood back and watched? Or would you say that I did something about it? It's up to you. CTP, know the truth. God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.